We're back in the CrashLabs podcast today with me, Matthew Wilson, Josh Duggan, and CJ Kim. And I guess we'll start by talking about the quarter. So we published our quarterly financials. Q1 numbers are in. And we'll just make it a routine to talk about those things. So without further ado, let's kick it off. Do we want to sort of summarize?
I'm going to summarize that it's really hot in here.
It's very hot and uncomfortable.
We need to invest in a fan next time.
We need a fan.
I'm sweating already.
The
We're
Q2.
1 minute in here and talking accounting. There's got to be some sort of airflow.
G&A is going to go up by $150.
Dear shareholders, there's a fan, maybe an AC unit even, that should be bought in these financial statements for Q2.
I'm going to set up the GoFundMe after this podcast.
Yeah. So we need a fan. Okay, well, without a fan in this hot, sweltering environment, uncomfortable, let's get even more uncomfortable and talk about our quarterly financials. Josh, do you want to summarize what the highlights of that are?
Yeah, I mean, happy to take everyone through. So we had about 4.7 million in total revenue, inclusive of our 3 million plus in investment gains. Obviously, we put some highlight numbers in the release. We're up 700%. Over Q1 last year in total revenue, up 94% in total advertising revenue as well. I mean, important to set the stage. We've talked a lot about this coming into this quarter, that, this is really our first quarter showcasing what, the CEO advertising program, DigiGeo starting to onboard some of its clients to its beta testing programs through its geospatial digital mapping. So we're starting to see some of that revenue come across, which we've been talking to shareholders about, and obviously very happy to see the investment portfolio with substantial gains or unrealized gains as well.
Now, for the burn rates and stuff affiliated with, like, let's say CEO.CA, Digi, the ongoing sort of overhead costs, surrounding EarthLabs and the investment side, are we basically getting a reasonable reflection of what upcoming quarters will cost?
100%, a lot less. I mean, there's a lot of one-time development expenses that we don't see those recurring. So,
right.
The keyword that CJ brought up on previous podcasts is bootstrapped. And we had given a fair amount of guidance initially in terms of what some of these programs could cost if we weren't revenue generating. And as people have seen, we've kept costs a lot lower than maybe some of the shareholders have projected us to be, and we're keeping a lot of that cash in hand and allocating that to investments as opposed to, burning it on development. And we've advanced CEO and Digi, I think spectacularly over the last 6 months.
Mm. I think moving forward, there are going to be times where we do want to accelerate the growth in certain products and widgets that we're putting out. However, I think we're very happy with the burn and development costs within each of these different financial tech subsidiaries or divisions. But, a lot of people, like we're on the forum a lot or in the chat room, and there's a lot of discussion around revenues and stuff like that. But I think people have to realize what you mentioned. This is still our first quarter, and we're a growth company. If you look at this part of our business, these are growth parts of our companies where, sometimes there is going to be more burn than revenue. We're very fortunate that we have revenue that can offset a lot of our burn. But, in the end, we don't want to slowly bootstrap a small little company here. Like we have grandeur visions of what CEO.CA and when DigiGeo becomes a part of that, of what this can actually become. So, we're excited, and, maybe there's going to be...
Is that like a nugget, like a little trail breadcrumb for some excess spending? That's going to come down the pipe?
Well, I don't...
you talked about the royalty thing, and then all of a sudden I look at the message boards, are like, oh, CJ said some big things about what they're planning to do with the royalty portfolio. We were planning to do something with our royalty portfolio?
Well, it's not like recognized right now. We don't really have to do anything, but all of a sudden, once people start recognizing that value, that's the big thing.
Someone's going to make an AI program that just records CJ's voice. And it's like, this is what's coming. CJ's talking about it. It's coming.
He's selling the sizzle.
I want to align expectations correctly here. And I think that we all can be excited about the revenues and stuff right now. But this is peanuts compared to what we think it can actually become. So let's not get excited about, coming out of this quarter, even Steven, No.
Yeah, and you don't want to be hooped into like this is the burn rate ongoing for these businesses, and you're never going to see any deviation from that. I mean, far from it.
Yeah.
There likely will be deviation. I don't think it's huge, but to your point, I guess
No, it's not gonna be,
from
like,
time
huge,
to time.
yeah.
There's things that you want to lay on the gas on and get done. And
No, it's a fair point. I mean, we
talk
took
about
over
it.
CEO. CEO, we talked about, was a website, not a business. It didn't even have an advertising platform. So we just spent the last year building that. This is, one of the first quarters of us introducing, a new product to public companies. And obviously there's growing pains with that. But now we have a full-time sales team and starting to sell these packages. And we'll see that reflected in the revenue over the next few quarters. We just launched the new CEO.CA as a, soft launch a few weeks ago. There's, I think, 300 to 400 people now on that platform, and we're going to be launching it publicly over the next few weeks to a month. So that's going to be very exciting.
There's still a lot of bugs.
No, we're just getting those mostly cleaned up now.
Yeah, but from the users that have been using it, was there like some massive
At
influx
first,
of bugs?
at first there was hundreds and hundreds, but we have narrowed it down. I think we have like 2 or 3 left, and the new users are loving the platform. So the goal is obviously to have these onboarding parties. We're going to keep onboarding 50 to 100 people over the next few weeks as we work out the remaining kinks and make sure there's no major bugs, and then we're going to launch it for everyone. So the next time they show up on CEO.ca, it'll just be magically there for them.
You know what I'm pumped up about is our news section on CEO.ca.
A lot of people don't.
We've been slipping some. We've been
yeah.
slipping some top secret write-ups into the old community article section, and so it's gonna be fun. We are gonna build towards having a proper, news page, proper articles, proper things.
A lot of
and
people go
content.
straight to the stocks they own. Like they bookmark the stock page. If they own EarthLabs, they bookmark EarthLabs. They go straight there. They read the comments and they leave. And so I think it's important for us to start showing people that there's a lot more on CEO. Right. That it's such a monster platform. So news I think is going to be such an exciting thing that we bring that and make it more mainstream and integrate that within a lot of the channels so they don't have to go hunting for it.
We've got some really
the
killer writers, so look out
do,
for some pretty crazy content here coming forward on that.
Cool.
Okay. And a good quarter, but I think Matt wants to talk upon our unrealized gains there.
Do I ever?
Yeah.
Who doesn't
You're in
want
the
to
hot
talk
seat.
about unrealized gains?
He's sweating over there.
As Danny said it earlier, off the record, it's like it's better on unrealized losses. So I guess that's true. Look, like it was a really good first quarter, from the perspective of we were making money. I think that it's the most important thing is I was watching this Warren Buffett interview, and I'm not saying that what we were doing is any way, shape, or form the same thing, but it was interesting. He's sitting there in the 70s, and he was worth $500 million at the time, and he was like, "I don't need someone to tell me a good deal by telling me the price. It's like I can do my own work to tell you a good deal, right?" And I think that the unrealized gains here are really that's what ends up happening. Like you saw the market kind of go up, and now the market has totally dropped down, and I think you're going to see there be a little bit of a roller coaster ride this year, right? I mean, it was great. We've had some really good early wins where there were some realized gains that kind of came into it, but I think that we're really aligning ourselves with good teams, with good projects. We got summer programs coming up. You're going to see a lot of things that start to happen, and I think a good thing to overview. We got now. I mean, I guess this is later on, but there's about 20 new names in the portfolio right now. Still a lot of legacy stuff that was sometimes good and sometimes bad, but it's exciting. The teams that we're with, I think that it's a weird market right now. Boy, is it ever. I think that if you took a look at the venture index, so the last 20 years, which I know that we've had up a few times, but one of the things I started thinking about was like the survivorship bias that comes from it. So basically that just means like in 20 years ago, certain companies were in there that would have been bankrupt by now. Mm-hmm. And that index doesn't account for those companies that are bankrupt, right? So the index is just automatically going to be higher right now than it would be if you kept those companies in it, right? So right now you're probably at a low for the last 20 years in the venture. And when you look at I was saying, I read something this morning where the Russell 2000 basically is getting owned more by the large cap stocks than it has since 1997. So basically small caps are getting annihilated by large caps, and Nvidia is now $1 trillion, and Apple keeps ripping. And so I think that, it could be a little bit of a shaky time, but I still think that, you go to where people are not now and go to where they will be, right? So I think that it's great to see these gains here. we've had some pretty good wins early on. I think a couple of them are going to come to fruition this summer, especially as you see some of these things go public, which is going to be cool. But yeah, I think that like the macro of it all, it's good. Q2, who knows? Q3, I mean, I think that it could be a little up and down this year, but it's nice to see early on that we were doing pretty well.
Yeah, it's kind of neat, right? Like, I mean, I guess from quarter to quarter, it's easy to take the reward, the pat on the back when suddenly you go and show an unrealized gain of 15 million or something in a quarter, and everyone's like, holy, shit, these guys are awesome. And then, but you really know that that's so volatile, right? Like the next quarter.
You don't really make any money until you sell it, right?
So what's an appropriate way to look at something like this? Like if you're an investor, I'm unplugging myself from this completely and saying, okay, well, if we are looking at an investment issuer like us, what would be an appropriate number of quarters before you get a real sense of?
Well, if I was thinking of like
confidence.
if I was thinking of a venture fund, so junior mining is such a weird industry, right? Because we have venture companies. So like junior exploration is not unlike any other venture business where you prove a concept and then you prove your business model and you get your cash flow forecasts and then money comes in and then you grow it and eventually one day hopefully you actually are making money. And so I think that any other venture fund that deals in private space, because that's you go to tech, you go to biotech, wherever it is, usually it's private. And so people don't see these fluctuations in the quarter, right? So you don't actually look quarterly. You look annually, if not 5 years, right? Because usually the lockup periods for most venture funds are 5 to 10 years, right? So, you don't have to deal with that. We are in this unique scenario where both we are public and the companies we are investing in
our holdings are public. Yeah.
So it's a really interesting place. And of course, we did this before. And that's one of the brilliant things about being a public company is it is great to kind of go through that and give that option for people to invest in with no lockup periods, right? With no issues for that, right? But, what's a time horizon on a good exploration story, right? I mean, could be a year, could be 3 years. I like to think that, you have a 1 to 3 year kind of time horizon for most of these things. So if we have 20 new names in the last 6 months, let's just say that that's the case, then, I think that the real coming to fruition of these things is a year from now, is 2 years from now. And yes, of course it matters throughout. And of course this summer there will be a lot of things that work and some things that don't work. Hopefully more things work than not. But of course we have a lot of drill programs coming up in the summer, right? We have some things in the Golden Triangle, we have some things in Labrador, right? These things you need summer programs for them to get going. So, and then you had a big capital raising period here with from that January to March, right? So everyone kind of got their money in and now they're going to do stuff with it, right? So it should be a really exciting summer. But some things are early, some things are going to take a little bit longer to work out. Some things are really early, right? We were playing very, very early rounds in some cases where they're just acquiring new assets, but the team was so great. And so we're positioning ourselves. Yep. But I think that 1 to 3 year time horizon for really seeing how we're doing. And of course, yes, if we start losing a whole bunch of money over and over again, quarter over quarter, that's
probably not a good sign.
Probably not a good sign. I'm not gonna hide away from that, right? Like if we can sit here and I'll just say, look, that sucks. But really, like on an exit scenario, like we're looking to start to sell. It really is like 1 year is still short, right? When you think about, let's take like the success stories, the Newfounds, the Great Bears, right? You go back even farther, like when we were talking with Jamie, right? When you're thinking about the things that worked in 06 and 07 and the uranium names, the Paladins, right? Like those things were not, it's not like it goes from 10 cents to 20 cents and you're like, I'm done. Then you're not playing the game right? You're waiting for 10 cents to $5. You're playing this game to really back the winners, right? And when we're looking at things, I think we're really good at this because there's this great perspective we all bring into this where we have geology and finance and experience and management understanding, and we're looking for scale. And these things are big. The things that we're putting money into are big
ideas,
right? We can chat about a couple of them today, but they're big ideas. And so big ideas take a little bit of time to get going, but when they do, like they're fun, right? So, hopefully as we kind of get through the summer, we can start to talk about a few of these things that are really starting to take off. But I guess that's why I hesitate on like the unrealized gains. Like, well, nothing's really, it's great. Some of, the names.
It's a snapshot.
There's a couple things that sampled some lithium here and there, and there's a couple things that sampled some gold. It worked really well, but like there's a few names that have raised money, right? New money, and there's some names that we put money into that are exciting because they have big projects, and so. So I guess I always like kind of cringe a little bit at unrealized gains in a short time frame because it's just it's kind of more market reflective than it is kind of.
As someone wise once said, they're better than unrealized losses.
Yeah,
So.
Yeah.
I feel like that was recent, but it's great. It's great.
Yeah. Okay. Well, there you go. That wraps up our review of the quarter. We're excited. We're happy about it. I mean, I was asking questions. I didn't offer any, words of encouragement here, but no, we're really excited about it. I think everything is, captured nicely there. Everything's heading in the right direction. We've got to untangle the historic, we call it legacy shareholding, legacy portfolio with the new portfolio. So that's going to be, that'll take months and quarters to work its way, possibly even a year.
Possibly even a year. Like we've been at it, but like that takes some time, and that's going to impact the gains because if you're selling, it's going to impact in the liquid market.
Totally.
Right? So,
Totally. So there's some of that going on, and then obviously we've got new names coming in the door all the time that we're super thrilled about.
I will say, you guys got a little exclusive walkthrough of the new DigiGeo platform, and I don't think I've seen CJ smile that much in the last 2 years, so that's pretty cool too.
Yeah, I was pumped about DigiGeo going through that.
Yeah, and that's something that no one's seen yet, which is pretty awesome.
Yeah, it's gonna be pretty wild when we get to showcase that. I think we should probably look to do that in one of these recent podcasts.
Well, as an old power user of Intera and then SNL, and then all of a sudden it's tucked away in the back room of S&P, and they don't really care about it because it's such a small portion of their multi-billion-dollar empire that they don't care about mining. So now that we're going to bring something to market where we actually care about it, we know what users want, we know what investors want, we know what the industry wants, and it's all going to be packaged together, very easy to use on a...
We just got to figure out how to price it.
Maybe not want what they need.
Want and need.
Want is like they're conscious of they should want this. They you need to use this.
Need to use it is also a price dependent thing too. I think that's one thing that the only concern I have about that project, like that project evolving forward for us, is to really make sure that we nail that pricing. We nail that the way that Glenn and team are monetizing, whether it be the map information, whether it be the overall database.
The
drill hole data, all that. Like there's an incredible repository of data there that's taken a really long time and a lot of money to stitch together and compile. You definitely don't want to get into a scenario where people can come in and scrape it. So that's an important thing to consider. Number two is, are we gonna try to price it the same way as like a Bloomberg station or something that's completely out of reach for everyone, and there'll be a very small subset of people that'll be able to afford using it. Or do we want to make something affordable? And obviously I'm a very big proponent for making something very affordable so that you don't have to be
a fund or mining or a big mining company.
Right. To be able to play with this stuff. So that's really important for me. So that's exciting. Digi. What else do we have? Like I said, the news thing's pretty cool. Anything else we want to comment on with what's coming down the pipe? When are we going to see drill holes?
On CEO?
Yeah.
Ooh, put me on the spot.
I feel like I just got deja vu. Like the first episode. Were we talking?
I'm just going to keep hitting them with it till it's like...
Yeah, I mean, we're aiming for this quarter.
Okay. All right.
This quarter? This quarter is almost done.
Very broad.
This quarter's almost done.
Oh.
Aggressive.
Right.
I like that.
Aggressive timeline. It did look really good, though.
Yeah,
what I did see, it looked really good.
Yeah.
Okay. So that's that. What do we want to talk about? Any other deals? Any of our investments that we want to kind of highlight, revisit?
Yeah, we can talk about some stuff like that. I feel like I've missed one or two for chances to chat. I mean, we've had I think that, going from the unrealized gain commentary, it's like, well, are good things happening with our names? Good things are happening with our names. So I guess we could, I think I made a list of names that we could chat on.
We'll pull it out.
There we go.
Whip it out.
So let's talk about a few names. Talk about a few names we talked about before. So congrats to Taj and the team at NOAL. They closed NOA Lithium. Those are the guys that are drilling the edges, right? Remember, these are the edges of the salars.
Of the brines.
Right? Edges of the brines where you're trying to find deeper down. You're trying to find these thick beds of lithium, whatever they're called, beds. I'm in potash mode right now, but
Reservoir.
Whatever it is. So you want a thick kind of component of brine, and then you pump it out. Similar kind of ideas.
And on the edges, everything gets pumped and juiced
And the
up.
idea is that the edges, as you get deeper, the grade goes up, the dilutants go down, and this is what the senior cos, the Rios of the world, are doing in Argentina, right? And so that was the thesis. And then about a month ago, they came out and they were like, we have these huge, thick whatever beds. Pick a word.
So they drilled them. So they drilled them.
They drilled it. So we know that there is very large and thick beds down to 600. I think they went down to 650.
Did they get the
meters.
grades back?
No grades yet. So we're waiting on assays.
Nice.
Okay.
In the meantime, they went out and they targeted $3 million and they raised 7 at 40 cents.
Wow.
And
Hard
so
to do.
hard to do right now, exactly. And so they raised 7. They have these really thick beds, and then secretly, where no one really noticed, they also went out and bought the other half of a salar, of a current salar, which is the other half is owned by a company called Lithium Chile. Lithium Chile, for those that don't know, is about a $170 million market cap company, dealing with kind of low grade, low PPMs, but the $170 million company, couple million tons of this 300 ppm sort of lithium in brine. And so they bought the other half of the salar. You're targeting 1 to 2 million tons there, but in a region that's really good. It's up in the triangle. And so, they continue to kind of put their business model together. They're acquiring cool things around Argentina, like focus in Argentina. Again, like I said,
He's got the guys that like they know where all the bodies are buried.
The first time I talked about this, I was like, the reason I get excited about this story is because the guys behind this, they just know. They're like, look, this is what the senior cos are doing. We advised the senior cos when they bought this. So we're going to do this. And then the worst case scenario, we have these like kind of nuisance claims, which of course, as we talked about the first time, it's like, nuisance claim of lithium is not a small thing. It's like nuisance claim in oil. So it's like, you got to get rid of that. So they're doing a great job. Their business model's moving forward. I think that they're aware that the cash that they have is going faster than they thought. And so it's great that they were able to raise 7 because the first 8 that they raised probably went pretty quick. Not a ton of love in the market yet, but it's 50 cents right now. So it's higher than it was when the first deal was at 30. This one's at 40. So
we're up.
We're up. We're doing well. I think that the assays will say a lot. I have no idea what they're going to look like.
Okay, so just to summarize all of that, they put their money to work.
Money's work.
They drilled a whole bunch of stuff. They came back with very encouraging dimensions, let's say.
That's right. So it's like
but no numbers. So they're hanging the
yet.
carrot out there in the world of numbers.
Yeah.
Right. They probably know what those numbers are, but they haven't released
bold
them. Or
move,
possibly
bold move, raising money before the assays.
Before the assays.
Yeah.
So either that's horrible. And
Yeah, it's usually scary for me when
Everyone
that
just got
happens.
screwed.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What was that deal in? What was that deal in BC? That nickel thing. That was like the worst thing ever.
Garibaldi.
Garibaldi. Oh yeah, it could be like a lithium Garibaldi all over again.
Well,
like visible.
I would
Fuck.
VG stories. How many times have you seen VG stories where it's
Right.
like we have 37 flakes of visible gold, and you're like, oh yeah, it's like 0.3 grams gold.
I love
But then on the other hand, you had the scintillometer measurements with
So
Next
that's-
Gen, which was like we
But
got this.
scintillometer is
Our scint readings are off the charts.
But that's
And then
different. It's uranium. Uranium's the only one you can do that for.
Visual assays are the best when they have a presser. Like sometimes companies even halt on visual assays, and
These
Okay,
guys,
so-
they drilled the brine.
Yeah, so they drilled the brine. So that's
raised a bunch of money at an opportune time, maybe an opportune time in a good way, maybe in a bad way. We don't know yet. And then they also consolidated
But they also
more
acquired
stuff.
They also acquired more
Got it.
stuff, and that stuff is for sure lithium bearing.
Yeah.
Again, the grades aren't as exciting is not that exciting, but they're part of a salar that is probably going to be strategic at some point. And that's it. So they're doing their jobs really well, and it's going forward. And again, like that's like one of those things, unrealized gains. Like yes, it's up, which is great. They closed the deal at 40 like a week ago, and the stock's at 50. So is it worth 50 or is it worth 40? Like is it like what?
Yeah.
Right, because it plays both ways, right? I like to think that it's worth 40 because nothing's really happened, but it's nice that it's at 50 right now.
Got it.
markets are efficient, right?
Yeah.
It's up. Unrealized, up.
Yeah, so that's a good one. That's exciting. And also they're just doing a good job. Like they're doing exactly what they said they were going to do. So that's always nice. Okay, so next one. All right, so one that is not doing as well right now, but I am now recently very bullish on, even though the stock is down, is one of the first ones that we ever talked about, which is Mawson.
I thought we sold it all. I thought we made a trade. My gut's in. Sorry, bro. No.
So we don't have to always agree. So again, Mawson, just for all those who don't know, owns 51% of Southern Cross Gold. Southern Cross Gold is 50 kilometers south of Fosterville, has drilled holes such as 140 meters of 4 grams, 800 meters of 1.5 grams, bananas grades over a 6 kilometer strike. As they figured out, they've only drilled 25,000 meters of this project ever. This is the first time they've ever drilled this project, 25,000 meters, and that's it. But they've already hit these things over like 7 kilometers, and they have 6 different zones. So the company right now, Southern Cross, has an $80 million market cap, I think, or something like that, with $15 million in cash or so. And Mawson, with 51%, has probably about 15 cents a share right now in Southern Cross. Mawson is 17 cents. They also have this thing in Finland. So the reason we played this in the first time is because we were able to buy Mawson at a 60% discount or whatever. It was some huge discount to what the ARB was saying with their Southern Cross holdings.
And Southern Cross was like 120 or 160 or something at the time?
It was like 80 cents, right? It was like 80 cents at the time. And they had just raised
there was like a very
million.
clear ARB.
It was a very big ARB, right?
Yeah.
And so we came in on Mawson because it was like buying Southern Cross, but buying it for half the price of where they were.
Yep.
And now they're actually more even. But Southern Cross has come off a lot. So then the question is, okay, well, do you sell the property? Do you sell it because of the ARB? The ARB is done? Or do you now own for cheaper, right? Do you own a company that has really good downside protection with an asset that I think is one of the most exciting new ones in the world? I like to think that we are now very much involved. I think we own a couple percent of Mawson. So by that token, we own a couple, half that of Southern Cross, right? So it's a real stake. And I just had a chat for a couple hours with the guys there, and I think that I think you're going to see some really huge holes the second half of the year, like big holes, as they keep figuring out. Like 25,000 meters is not a lot, and to hit all the stuff that they've hit, like 20 meters of 7 or whatever, like huge hits all over the place. To hit that with 25,000 meters, and now to keep going, I think that's the perspective I got. Because I was like, oh well, the trade is over, blah blah. It's sad, but really when I realized they'd only drilled that much. And they'd already hit so much, like the amount of gold that has to be in the system to hit that much over the first 25,000 meters with no real guiding, no like old mine there that you're just testing.
No, it's a true discovery.
It's a true discovery. I think this thing is going to be a monster, and so I'm very excited about this.
It seems really exciting, and it actually seems like both are a buy.
I think both are buy, actually.
Yeah, it seems like both.
Yeah. Harder to buy in Australia if you're here in Canada, but
no, but you can always buy Mawson.
Yeah. I think so.
That's what we did.
And Mawson has really good downside protection because you still have that ARB, and they also have this asset in Finland, which people are starting to get interested in again. It's 1 million ounces. It's probably a case to make it that it can go to 2. It'd be a small mine for someone.
Yep. It's a bonus. It's
a bonus. It's probably worth like 10, 15, $20 million. So you have that, which is nice. But anyway, Mawson, the Southern, I got really pumped up on Southern Cross again.
Yeah.
Right. I got jazzed.
They're drilling like crazy. I mean, when
4
we talked
rigs
to them
going.
at PDAC, they were drilling like crazy.
Yeah.
And it's definitely like this is the time to hit it. So
yeah, and recently they've kind of had a couple hits which were like, you have a meter of a half of 150 grams. And
yeah, they were
like
hitting some splashy numbers.
down to like 850 meters depth though. So you're like, it's pretty deep. But the way it was explained to me is just like, they're almost picking boundaries in a way. Like the next holes they're going to do now that they kind of have an idea of more of the clear path of like where the mineralization is taking it is they're like, we've kind of figured this out.
Find one vein. And you'll find what was it was like that profound vision on that presentation we saw today. It's like all you have to do is find one vein and you'll find others.
Oh, and we're like, it's like I don't know if that's true, but okay. Yeah. So that's a good one.
It, they will come.
But maybe a question that we get asked is, are we going to publish our holdings? And I think while our time frame is much longer, it's not in our benefit to publish our holdings.
No, it makes no sense. I understand publishing the aggregate numbers, but not like publishing what our investment holdings are on a quarterly basis, something like that.
Yeah.
But not like a breakout of each individual position. No, we're not doing that.
No.
If you wanna assemble a basket like us, and weight it accordingly, then you can go ahead and buy Gold Spot stock.
Mm-hmm.
How's that?
But we'll talk about them. I mean, we're going to be talking right now. Like, for example, Southern Cross could not work. Yep. And then it can be like, Matt, why did that not work? Then, someone would ask, and they could be like, well, the lithium thing, the grades didn't work. Well, that didn't work for us. But here's the theory of why we did it, right?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Right? There's another one we just put money into. Good segue. There's another one we just put money into we can talk about up in the Ring of Fire. Right? So, private company. Right? So I'm not even going to talk about the name. Doesn't matter. Private company, though. Run by old heads of FNX and guys that did geophysics for Vale, that ran Vale geophysics around the world. This deal just, these guys have endless acreage up in the Ring of Fire and 3 new superconductors, and they have the, politicians going up because everyone's so excited because the Ring of Fire has a lot of metal up there, which is really hard to get to, right? But those guys have $25 million in the bank. They're going to drill some holes, and so we're there for something like that. But like that, then that's another one we're talking about. But like that could not work. That could work, and
big regional Ring of Fire.
Thing. Yeah, you're talking about like the next Voisey kind of discovery. That's what you're looking for. That size and scale kind of thing. I forget what his name is. Anyway, he's there.
Morris?
No. And a guy I'm getting to know very well, Alan King. He was running geophysics for Vale for a long time. He's doing my stuff for Sterling as well. He's doing all the geophysical stuff, and geophysics in the Ring of Fire, extremely important. Dealing with, you're dealing with targeting for nickel and copper sulfides and a bunch of PGEs, right? So you need a solid geophysicist, and really good team. Advisor there is actually runs exploration for me at Sterling as well, Jeremy. So I can kind of understand the deal a little bit just from the perspective there, because he took Noront up to 20 million tons of nickel. So his Ring of Fire expertise is probably the only person that really knows the Ring of Fire that well, because he did it. And cool story. Like really great team. Now really good amount of money, 25 million, and you can't spend more money than if you're in the Ring of Fire.
And when is it going public?
So the idea is hopefully it goes public in the fall. But like there's no pressure on the timing there. That is their idea. The idea for them is to go public in the fall. They're going to start drilling this summer. So just a bunch of very, very savvy, either old time or new time based readers and mining guys who are all involved with this. Everyone from like gold CEOs to nickel guys. So it'll be really interesting to see if it works, because what basically they have is like these big superconductors, right? Like these EM superconductors, and then on surface you have all these sulfides. So we're talking about, right? So you have massive sulfides on surface that have like traces of copper and traces of nickel and all these things, right? So the idea is that you deeper down where the superconductor is, that's your big giant,
blowout.
Kit Creek on its side.
Yeah. Sideways blowout.
Yeah.
So it's all it's a bunch of big wheels, Cudney's group, a lot of sort of the players, and then you've got all these ex-Noront sort of geophysics types. Ring of Fire, $25 million is a lot of money to raise in these markets for anything.
They have, and the guys who are coming in are
heavy hitters.
Yeah, like I'm not going to disclose that because that's not good practice. But yeah, like really smart, much more experienced than.
For private company too.
Yeah, private company. And honestly, they're turning money away from a lot of people. So
good.
It's they are really excited. Everyone's planning a pretty big rollout on some success. And again, like if you're dealing with a big nickel discovery, when there was already 20 million tons of nickel. I mean, Noront was drilling.
I like that name, Juno.
I don't think people remember.
Great
like
name.
Noront was drilling 200 meters of like 5% nickel. Mm-hmm. Like holes that we just don't see anymore. Like you don't like in that sort of, like, when have you seen nickel holes like that?
Yeah.
Right? Like what's the company that went to Australia that worth like 150 and they were drilling 200 meters of 0.2% nickel?
Oh, Dale Ginn's company.
Yeah, and they're worth $100 million, right?
Yeah.
So like we're talking, when you don't have nickel discoveries around the world and you're dealing with massive sulfides, like you're not, I mean, Friedland, we were just talking about Voisey earlier in the day, right? So when Voisey got bought $4 billion on nickel, I mean, you just don't find these things, right? So that is, for me, when you look around adventure, that's what you look for, right? You look for something that has scale that could be worth $5, $6, $7 billion, because that's what it's worth.
So let's talk about that a little bit, because I mean, we were looking at some other energy metals, sort of strategic metal explorers in Ontario or plays in Ontario. That's becoming a thing, right? The federal government,
it sure is.
Everything. Like Levy came in here, we were talking about it. We saw another one. I don't know if we can't talk about it yet. It's too early.
Nah, we could talk about the premise of it.
The premise of it. It's not something we love, but it's something that
I'm so pumped.
I love the deal,
I'm
but
so
I mean, it's not the commodity.
Well, it's not a commodity
itself
that we love.
It's
not a commodity we love.
But it's pretty cool.
Yeah, you see people coming around. It's a different narrative this time with battery metals. I understand. I've come to appreciate it. So we're going to talk about graphite here for a second. So graphite.
It's graphite.
Yeah, it's graphite. So it's a bunch of pencils we're going to make. Yeah. And so I had to start.
Stay with us. It's graphite.
So
it's interesting.
I swear
I
it's interesting. I swear. All right. So it's not public yet, but there will be a public, and it'll be something we hopefully get hyped up about in the fall. But But graphite for me holds a special place in my heart of hate. Right, so it's
Oh.
like in a corner. Like I hate it. I got when I was
It's right
working.
beside my lithium. It's right beside my lithium.
No, you can't compare graphite to lithium, man. It's impossible.
Yes, I can.
No way.
You want to watch? I can. I'll compare it to lithium and rare earth. If you'd like me to.
Okay, so there's like scandium. There's scandium, which I saw a company the other day. Again, I saw a company the other day release scandium results as part of their copper equivalent.
Oh, nice.
I hadn't seen this in so long, and their
Scandium.
copper results were like 0.1% copper, and gold was like 0.08. And then all of a sudden, they're like, we just did metallurgy and we got scandium. And I know I'm going to get crapped on for this, and I couldn't believe the copper equivalent numbers went from like, 0.1 to like 1.
Did they
And I was
It was
like,
all scandium.
it was all scandium, and I was like, and there's like cobalt, but it's like 35 ppm cobalt.
Yeah.
And I just looked at it and I was like, whoa.
Quick aside, we're
Wow.
gonna fix that with the new drill hole feature on CEO.CA because Freddie came up
Does
with
it
that
say
bar.
we're not recovering this?
No, it just he's got like bars that highlight underneath the assays. Like so, every time a press release comes out, and you'll see all the different assays. If it's polymetallic, it's got different colors. So it's like copper will be like red and little, and then if it's gold, it'll be yellow and bigger. But it's like amounting to 100% of the equivalent value.
Yeah,
So you'll see what
exactly.
components it's made of.
And I mean, look, like polymetallic deposits are fantastic. I love polymetallic. It's great. It's easier to recover just one thing than it is 5, right? I'm running a company that has polymetallic thing.
Sure.
You're going to deal with metallurgy. It's going to be a thing. So it's not to say that they're bad at all, for sure. Like you can recover them. Look at most silver production comes from copper mines, right? So it's like that. Where do you think lead zinc comes from? Not from like a pure zinc mine,
Yeah.
right? Like it's always a byproduct. So
Yeah, or cobalt from nickel.
yeah, that's right. Or cobalt from copper, right? The copper cobalt things in Central Africa, right? So, so polymetallic is not a bad thing. It's just I think that when you try and think of things in a vacuum, like you're recovering a very hard element that no one else can recover in a vacuum, and you're doing it like with a lab, and you're putting pieces around versus like a giant mine where you're moving big dirt. Like, I don't think people realize like when you're dealing with 20,000, 50,000 tons a day in the mill, like that's a lot of dirt. So like it's not like it's not like you're just like, here we go, there we go, grain over there, okay, right? Like it's a little different.
Turn on the scandium concentrator.
So I couldn't believe that. But
Is that next to the flux capacitor?
Yeah, the flux capacitor and the carbon nanotubes.
oh, man. But graphite for me was like during the craze of the rare earths and vanadium and whatever it was the last battery run. Graphite, it was I remember Mark Ragouz at the time. We were sent to Quebec.
Mason graphite.
No, this was right before Mason. It was called Canada Carbon.
Oh, I was gonna say Bruce.
You went, yeah, R.A.P. Bruce Duncan, and
did he pass away?
Yeah, he passed away.
Sudden
And he had this vein. This is this project, Canada Carbon, and Shell didn't put money in.
It was so shitty.
Anyway, like there was this vein, and I swear, like the mic that I'm speaking into right now is about the width of the vein of graphite. And it ran, I don't know, 20 meters. Like, who cares? And it was worth like $50 million, right? And that was the time when everyone was talking about purity and flake size, and there was all these things anyway that mattered. And the market just went bananas. And then you had things like Zenyatta, which were worth $400 million. They're telling everyone that Mercedes was putting money into
Well, didn't they have like a defense contractor? They're like,
That's right.
The defense contractors, they want
yeah, they all
the
want
flake
something.
size.
Okay, that's right. So then you
SD.
and no one built anything, right? But the one thing that is different this time, and then anyway, so all those projects blew up and they didn't matter. But the only thing that is different this time is that now you actually do have car plants. You actually do have the Ontario government building really big plants for Volkswagen and whatever the other one is,
100%.
the S1. And then also what you have is 2 macro events that have happened, right? You have COVID and you have the war. And so you have really big things, and also like the future, let's call it the new cold whatever war, if people want to talk about it, right? So you've got this domestic supply chain security argument, and you have a guarantee of supply argument. So there's like 2 different things, right? You need to like domestic security, and you also need to make sure that you're not sourcing everything from somewhere that might get disrupted if you have something like COVID happening again, right? So now you have the government who's trying to write big checks into projects for things that you need for the electrification of the world, right? So for cars, right? So the government's granting billions of dollars to Volkswagen to come to Ontario, right? So they want to make sure that the supply is coming from Ontario. So we have this new project that we're going to get involved with. which is a big graphite mine, which actually is like 15 years old. And I knew from the last time we looked at graphite together. I think you and I even looked at it in 2014 or something, right? It's called Ontario Graphite anyway. So this
And it's like Muskoka, like not very far, like a couple hours from Toronto.
yeah, you throw your hands on it. But the thing is that these guys went and these guys figured it out what they didn't figure out last time, which is graphite is not about finding a graphite deposit. There are lots of those. Graphite is about figuring out how to take graphite and make it into something, right? And so they went out and they partnered with people who know how to do it. And I think that this story is going to be like they have enough graphite for thousands of years, right? Like it's like enough graphite
like
forever.
this deposit's not the issue.
Right, but the thing is like these car plants are there. Everyone needs the material and the business that's going to come. We were talking about why don't things get valued the right way in mining? Why is everything so down? Well, because it's like the idea of people actually making money out of a mine. It's so far down the road in many cases. In this case, it's like right now.
I won't even mention right now who's involved, but for me, who's involved and who's behind this is a really big deal.
Yeah,
We're talking like top.
we'll get them on.
Yeah, they're very good. And then like you want to be part of their things. And then number two is I was listening to Emergencies Act thing. I know it's weird. But I listen to that crap sometimes. And the Emergencies Act thing, and Chrystia Friedland was on there. I think it was Chrystia Friedland. I think it was Emergencies Act. I might be wrong. It was something like that. And she was talking about how great of a deal she did with NAFTA and how important it is that that her and JT Mr. Prime Minister are doing everything in their power to get battery factories made down in Windsor. I think that's why it was the Emergencies Act, because we were talking about blocking, like how important those regions were to the economy and stuff. And she was going on and on and on about like batteries and how they're going to be making batteries. It's like, yeah. So having graphite that close, a graphite mine that close, with those people behind it and all that.
And then there's
I don't love graphite. I always love Nouveau Monde. I will say that. I was the first guy to like that guy.
New one is worth $400 million.
It's
right?
crazy.
They're doing this. They still don't, but they're still working on the process, right? This thermal processing recovery thing that's coming, which is great.
Yeah.
But like this will be the first. This will be the only thing you could buy that is producing and selling graphite in North America,
Like right now.
for like the next 6 years.
Yeah.
It's gonna be cool.
It's interesting that we're seeing all of our best deals, and they're all private right now. Like majority, would you say majority or like
We're going down the value. Like we're going not down the value chain. We're going up the value chain, I think. But that we're going down into that. That's the whole point of, we're not buying stuff off the market that anybody else, could just go out there and buy. Oftentimes, the best deals are private deals, and well, sometimes you're buying things off the market. Anybody else can go buy.
I believe that the two of us have just recently done public deals that are that we both
And
really
sometimes
like.
they're really good.
And they're just amazing, and then the stock, does whatever it's gonna do.
Yeah. Yeah, it happens. But I mean, I think some of the best stuff, the best deals are found privately.
Well, I think that the big thing is just you if you can raise capital right now, I envy private deals right now, right? Because we raise money, Segway, right? Raise money in sterling, right? At 15 cents, and it's 10 right now. If it was private, it would not be 10. It would be 15, right? And we would have raised the same amount of money, truthfully. The checks that came in, it would have been the exact same, right? And I think that, so I think that so if you can be private in a market that's this down, we talked about, like, it's great. And you see like people are confident that the story can come out at the right time and things like that, right? So you kind of, got to go with things as you do. But look at Kirkland, for example, right? Like Kirkland, huge land package. If it was private, would have been easier because you wouldn't have had the comp. You wouldn't have had the history. You don't have, right? It's like, oh, it's fresh. It's good. It's easy.
It would have been way easier, and we would have name a price that was not 13 or whatever, 15 million pre-money. We probably could have done it at a way higher price.
Maybe.
And raised the exact same, if not way more money.
Maybe.
Yeah. No, it's a fact. I mean, if you look at the, that was a tough deal because we had to glue, we're sort of beholden to the value of Warrior and what Warrior is trading at in the public space.
Yeah. So if you're dealing with something that had half of it, it's $3 million. You're like, well, you know what I mean? It's just.
Well, remember that time we were looking at that in that one jurisdiction at the next like possible Voisey's Bay type concept, and the science was right and everything was right. Except for the public company.
$1 million.
Yeah, there was like a company that had a strategic piece of it. We're like, oh, that's okay. We can go buy it. And it was like they're publicly traded at a half.
Yeah, $1 million.
At like a $1 million
It was $1 million
valuation
yeah.
right now.
Yeah.
So
We had the next giant nickel discovery play. We were like, we're going to raise at $50 million. This is going to be huge.
raised 20 at 50.
And then we
like,
found
boom.
a company that was awesome and had all the same team that we would have wanted to hire into this company. And
Yeah.
it was worth $1 million.
Yeah.
We're like, okay, next project. This is a bad idea.
Yeah, there's no breaking out of that loop.
No breaking out of that loop.
It just has to die and be forgotten,
Yeah.
and we'll revisit it in 10 years.
Yeah. But I do think that the market still does reward discovery, right? Like if you have discovery and like we're putting, and there are public companies that we're throwing money into that are interesting. I mean, there's some other interesting things that are happening. You're seeing money is available. You're seeing money is available for things that have big discovery potential, right? So we just looked at this HighGold.
Yep.
Right. So HighGold, these guys are up in Alaska. They got 2 million ounces of gold, higher grade. Good guy behind it. I don't think I chatted with him in a long time.
Man, they were good guys.
Yeah, really good guys. Like smart and told their story very well.
Totally. Yeah.
Like
knew their
Denny
shit.
and I were on yesterday with them, and you're just listening, and you're like, yeah, you just get it. I like you.
Yeah.
Like you can figure this out. And so these guys have all these different assets.
What's the guy's name? That's rude to call it out without knowing his name
was
offhand.
Darwin.
It was
Darwin.
Darwin. Yes. Thank you.
Yeah, he was terrific. He told a great story. Lots of confidence in his ability to do things, and he's executed over the last little bit, right? So
He really has. And so this is cool. So Steph's going to pull it up, slide 18 here on the deck for HighGold. This is the spin out of the new vehicle called Onyx Gold. Really like this. So the idea here is Snowline's had a lot of success, as everyone probably listening is well aware. If not, go ahead and look up Snowline for more information and see what's going on there. I believe B2 Gold just took a big position in there. So they're getting validation and vindication in the market and on their projects. I mean, obviously, it looks like the kind of discovery fervor has sort of, I wouldn't say cooled off, but it's...
we're $360 million, I think, Snowline, but it's off from when B2 put money. I think B2 money put a big premium.
Correct. Yeah. So it's, but it was well on its way. And it's a fantastic thing. We're talking about very large, and I'll say arguably high grade values coming out of that over very large widths, right?
We'll see about the high grades.
Let's
see. That's the only thing.
When
That's
you're talking about those
debate.
widths, though,
That doesn't matter.
It's
No,
like
I agree.
A high grade for those types of widths.
So a couple grams would be high grade. I
Yeah,
agree.
that's
right.
what I'm saying.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right.
If it was like half a gram, then I wouldn't consider that what I would consider
Especially
low
in the
grade.
Yukon,
Or
that'd
like
be tough.
Yeah, like 1 gram. It's like
No, it's
like
it's
2,
real
3
thing.
like
Yeah.
over big, like 100+ meter widths. Like that's high grade. Go down. So this is pretty cool. So that's their project. Actually, go back. Slide 18. Stay focused here. Sorry, King Tut. So you see where it says King Tut. That's the area we're going into, and you can see where the Snowline goodies are above that. They also have some ground below them. Fireweed is also...
That's an awesome story.
It's also awesome.
Those
in
guys
the
are
same
killing
neighborhood,
it.
right?
He grinded.
That road,
Yeah.
that's a road that goes in
around for a
there.
while.
So it's not like a paved road, but it's a road. So they have access to the site. Go down. So this is cool, and I was talking about this with CJ earlier this morning. What I like about this is the geocam, right? So you're looking at golden soils. And so I think this is something that a lot of people don't understand with soil values, is that, let's say I blanketed this entire property with soils, right? And I was looking for gold. Well, the best thing to look for when you're looking for gold is fucking gold, right? But
Wait. Okay, I got it.
Let's say the gold values were not very good. Let's say the anomalies that were jumping out were kind of shitty.
Yeah.
And I would have a hard time raising money with them. What I see a lot of guys do is, well, you got to put a little lipstick on it. What are you going to do? Oh, let's pull up the arsenic values, right? So then they pull up arsenic and they make a plot of arsenic, and you get these much more robust anomalies that are super impressive. And it's like, well, but that's arsenic now.
Or they'll
it's like, well, that's a pathfinder. It's like, yeah, fair enough. But you're embellishing, I think, what the values are. Now, you can do the very same thing in the gold universe. Now, specifically with soils, if I were to do the same thing at like 10 ppb or 20, 30 ppb, I'm kind of not doing it. 30 ppb is sort of like the tipping point for me.
And just as a quick aside, the last time the Yukon rush happened,
Yeah.
right, in 2010, that was the thing. it was 20 ppb, right? So Sean Ryan did his thing, staked all of the Yukon.
You can blow up a lot of shit with 20 ppb.
20
You can
ppb
blow
was
up a
the
lot
thing,
of
and so
money.
everyone would just show these like kilometers and kilometers of ground or 22, and then everyone drilled, and no one hit anything.
Right, exactly. So that's now you're making my point for me. So when you go 100 ppb, look at this legend here. 50, 100 is red, 100 plus to 7.5 grams. That's 7.5 grams gold. So that's 7,500 ppb. So if you look, those anomalies look like those are tight clusters, right? But that's a big area. That's like a kilometer by a kilometer. Golden Mask, the main tut, that's also very big. But we're talking about 100 ppb plus, right? So that's really, really good. That's a real tight target. It doesn't get better than that in terms of tills. Now they did use point size, so the point sizes are pretty big here, which is cool. I mean, that's a nice little trick. But I would do the same thing.
I would do the same thing too.
Yeah,
I do the same thing.
Like make the points like super big. And
Yeah,
then,
look at the ones that are really good here.
That's hiding maybe how many, God knows how many yellow points in the back.
But it looks like there's a lot. But there's a lot. I mean, we went
There's
through
a
it.
lot, yeah. There's a lot.
So it's a good cluster.
No, it's a very, very good cluster. And so, so it's fairly binary story. They're raising some dough in
cool story.
conjunction with the spin out. And the idea is going to go and drill this. And then they have some awesome stuff in Timmins too. So we can talk about the Timmins stuff.
Let's just keep on. I like this one.
This one's
Let's
good.
talk about
Yeah,
this one.
we like Golden Mask.
This is where
Golden
we're
Mask is going to be called the Denny Zone. Drill it. No, I'm just kidding. It's Snow Line 2.
Yeah. So these guys. So it's really cool that these guys
Yeah.
are doing, and honestly, but like that's scale, right? So it's not like I have, one anomaly. It's like, look, like this is a big anomaly. This is big, and you're beside something that is very big too, and you're in the Titina Gold Belt, which is very big. So again, like the market is still rewarding new discovery potential, and it's big. I mean, these guys, the spin out market cap I think is 13 million. So it's not like it's like $2 million.
Free
right?
money.
So, yeah. So it's like they're getting value for this, but they're raising real money, and I think that again, the ability to raise capital in such a crap market, right? So it says two things. One, it says that your project has merit, right? And two, it says that you have a team that can raise capital. Right. And like that in a down market is it's so important, right? Whether you're private or public right now, like finding, and I don't want to harp on our former picks or anything, but of looking at different names. But I think that like when you find companies that don't have money, it's like that's hard right now. You're not in a space right now that's easy to raise capital. And so like we're banking on 5 drill holes with 500 grand, like wrong space right now.
It's a grind out there.
It's a grind out there right now.
It's a real
hard.
grind.
And like, shout out to all those people grinding because it sucks.
Totally.
Yeah.
Yeah. Speaking of grind, you just closed off yours as
Thanks
well.
for calling that out. No, that one was easy. CJ, they were throwing money at us so fast. I cannot.
That was my segue. It was a wrong one.
Yeah.
I'm trying to find like cool ways of doing it.
Speaking of things that were really, really hard.
It wasn't that
Really hard and
I
took
was
forever and
close
almost
to it. It wasn't that hard, guys.
It was hard. It was hard, man. It was pretty hard. Anyways.
Finances are always hard, man, unless you have a drill hole that is 20 meters of 100 grams. Which I don't know who had that recently, but like, finances are hard. Like it's always hard, right? Getting people to part with their money is not like an easy
I can
thing.
honestly say that no newfound gold financing since the private rounds,
Like I said,
was ever hard.
If you've drilled 20 meters of 100 grams and then all the other holes that you guys have drilled, no, of course it's
The
not
only
hard.
thing hard with NFG was convincing the bankers that the valuation was reasonable at the onset with that IPO, and
Yeah.
the amount of money that got thrown at us was like multiples of what we went out seeking, and it was instantaneous almost.
Yeah.
But that was the hardest part.
Yeah, and you had a nice bull market to run with too,
Yep.
right?
Yeah,
You had-
it was
you had
the right
COVID run.
No,
Yes,
the timing was beautiful.
Yes,
Like you had
perfect.
perfect
That was
project, perfect market,
timing.
like all good things.
Yeah,
right?
all the things. Yeah.
But yeah, like raising money is not hard. Raising money is very hard. Like it's always tough. Like it's unless you're in a really crazy bull market, in which case it's actually not. Then everyone raises money, and it's not. But we are not in that bull market. Right?
Like yours with Sterling was pretty good. Like that was.
You know what?
I'm not going to say it was easy because I know it's never easy, but it was.
So-
It was.
That
As
was-
far as financings go for small caps in this market climate.
That was great. The PI guys did a really good job. Russ at PI did a great job. Like
Yeah.
everyone. I think we went with the institutions. I think we went 9 for 11. So 9 of the 11 funds that we sat with played, and
That's awesome.
that was awesome. And that was a testament. And so, talking about stocks and gains, stuff like that, like it does suck. I mean, it does. At some point you're like, it's like Sterling's trading at 10 cents right now. Raised $6.5 million at 15 cents. We have an EV of 4, something bananas, something really, really low right now, right? And I thought with big participation, I wrote a 6-figure check into that deal. Like I thought all those things would be like, well, at least it's setting like a base.
Yeah, at 15.
For, you know what I mean? Like you're setting a base here. It's like this is where it is, and like you have this institutional. It was 80% institutions, and the other 20% there was like smart, high net worth like mining guys, and then just trickles off.
It's all that flow through, that sweet nectar of the gods flow through
It's not
that
flow
you got
through.
in the last season.
But it's not flow through. That's all gone. That was all well gone. all that selling came.
That took you from 50 cents down
But
to
I had-
like 15.
That was 2021. That was 20. I didn't raise any flow through.
We're
in
not talking
2021.
about those days.
That was bad. It went from 90 cents actually to
Sometimes
30.
you got to do it. Sometimes you got to take
It
that
sucked.
dough and reach for the stars.
But yeah, that sucked. But even as a plug, like we're gonna start drilling any day now. At
Sail
Sail
Pond.
Pond. Yeah. So we're gonna start with Sail
Exciting.
Pond. The stuff that we got, the geophysics surveys that we got, and yes, of course, geophysics, like take it with a grain of salt. I mean, but like there's these huge, if we were to draw a chargeability anomaly, or actually a conductor, truthfully, under like where we would think it would be on the project, it was where it was. And it looks like a feeder for these super high grade veins. And there's like this kind of anticline that goes over it, and looks like that's what cracked all the veins up so that like the pressure just pushed these little 10 centimeter things through.
Yep.
And now there's this big ball of chargeability underneath where we hit the best grades and like
Conductivity and chargeability.
So we didn't do an EM survey, right? So it's low, very low resistor. The only problem with the resistor is the dolostone, hard to contrast.
Got it.
So it's hard because like you're seeing there's huge silicification, so you can't see like it's not really a big contrast between like the sulfides.
So you're
and such.
looking for you're not looking for sulfides in this case right now.
Well, we
with
are.
this.
So you've got like
the
this-
chargeability is not going to give you that. It's going to give you the quartz, right?
The chargeability does not give us the quartz. The resistivity did. The high resistivity.
The resistivity. Yeah, sorry. The
So the chargeability is like a ball
gives you
of
the sulfides, but not the It's not conductive.
But it's not a conductor.
Yeah,
That's right.
You don't
So-
get the connectivity.
So it'd be great, right? So we did borehole EM a long time ago to try and see if like these massive sulfides, but they weren't connected because all these crap little veins. So there is a theory that you're like, okay, well, this chargeability anomaly. Either it's the pyrite within the argillite. There's a lot of argillite in the project, as you remember.
becomes chargeable.
That's right. Which it should not be, because it is way over, and like you can see it in the resistivity. So it's way over away, or it's sulfides, and it would make sense because they aren't. It's not like 100 meters continuous. So like, but it would make sense that that's here, and so it's right underneath where we drilled this 100% veining of metal replacement in the dolostone. So that will be really cool. So we're gonna drill that, see if that works. There's another one that's there's 4 of them really. It actually makes the IP that you guys did in 2018 more interesting because we're able to see contrast between the argillite IP and because there's a trend line that we're understanding now. And you're seeing actually, because IP doesn't go down that deep. No. And so what we're seeing is that
that was a big ass IP survey.
That was a huge IP survey you guys did, and it was really widely spaced. It was huge.
Yeah.
That's massive IP survey.
Go big or go home.
Yeah, it's enormous IP survey. So it was interesting though, when we look at the IP though, now we're starting to see like, oh, that makes sense that it's right there. And it's like the top of what could be something. We're seeing this kind of like lower chargeability, like it's a contrast in chargeability, but it's not like massively chargeable, but you're seeing it's almost like a head, which is the same thing that we found here. But the Orion survey gets you to go a little bit deeper than what was before. So if this works, it's one of those things where like either we're drilling and we're hitting, 5 to 30 meters of these pods that are.
I would love to nerd out over that Orion data set.
It's cool.
And just play with it.
It's fun.
That was always a thing. I love those things, like the 3D IP.
Yeah, it's cool. We
just
had
a cloud of points that you can filter.
It's cool. We had Brian Benkert, the guy that invented the Titan survey, do our interpretation. He does the 3D thing just like those guys in Utah. And then we had Alan King look at it as well, because Alan King's doing
guys in Utah are wild. They're
wild.
very, very good.
Yeah, they're very good. So then we had Alan King, who ran Vale's geophysics, take a look, but he's the one doing our stuff in Labrador, because he and Neil O'Brien, Dex Lundin guy, they've been doing that for a couple of years now, like layering all this data. So
fun. So you're gonna whiz a hole down with this chargeability anomaly. Hope you get massive sulfides.
So Sail Pond is like one of those things. There's been like $8 million spent on it, and we're to drill it. It's gonna cost $500,000 to drill this thing.
So when he said it was chargeable. So just because we're mixing terminology. So there's conductivity, resistivity, and chargeability. So when he says that it's chargeable and that's reflective of sulfides, is he saying that that would still be low connectivity though? Like, is it?
We don't have connectivity, so we don't know
connectivity in terms of the sulfides being connected to one another. Like,
well, you don't really.
Are you getting blobs? Would he say that a chargeability anomaly would be an indicator of?
Well, the
of
presence
that strength,
of, the presence of sulfides, right?
Okay.
Yeah. So the difference that I'm coming to understand, and again, like
Yeah.
I have a limit where I can explain, but what I'm coming to understand is that if I'm doing like an EM survey, right, and I'm trying to find connected sulfides, so the conductivity, right?
That's
like everything is connected to find conductivity. So like the sulfides have to connect. Whereas this case, it might just be like too fractured. It's like vein, gap, and so you don't actually have a conductive current. Current doesn't run through the whole thing because it stops.
Right,
that's where chargeability comes in.
And that's what we call connectivity. When you have low connectivity, so between the sulfides, they're not connected and touching.
Yeah.
Then the current doesn't, go through them. It's not very conductive.
That's right.
But it's chargeable. So usually you get that in like a.
So that would be the theory here.
Right.
That would be the theory here.
Okay.
And so we don't,
Understand.
because you have a resistivity high for the silicification, right? So
Right.
you don't know. So that messes with like, if you're looking for big porphyry things, like the stuff that down in Vicuña district, for example, right? The big porphyries right now are looking for these resistivity lows and a chargeability high, because resistivity low, if you go low enough, is basically a conductor. It's the opposite.
It's completely the opposite. So
Right,
that's what you're saying. If you have resistivity values,
But
you 100% have conductivity values
but
because this is an inverted
That's right.
data set.
But it messes it up because we have a resistivity high, so you can't deal with that because of all the silicification, all the quartz.
Yeah.
So doesn't work.
So chargeability is what you're looking to stand out.
So if chargeability works, which is what you guys thought it was going to be matter in 2018, because it makes sense, like sulfides, chargeability makes sense. So if that works, that could be really fun. It's going to be a fast turnaround. We're going to know really quick.
Cool.
Yeah.
So stay tuned for
that.
Sail Pond drilling.
And then Adeline in August.
Adeline in August. I'm so pumped for Adeline.
So cool. I'm Jeremy's there right now. He just called me from site and he's sitting on the trench. He's like, hey, brought his Starlink.
This place looks cool.
It's cool. There's a good fishing lodge apparently on the property that we're going to like way away that we're hoping to like, go take a look at. And we found like there's an airstrip north of it that apparently we're going to hopefully be able to use. And
moving on, do we have any other deals that we want to talk about?
No, let's.
What else happened in the portfolio?
no, those are pretty good. That's a pretty good summary of that's a bunch of names so far.
We hit Sterling. We hit
we did Kirkland Lake, Moss. Yeah, no, we did. That was 6 names.
Okay,
We did. That's a good overview. We'll have some more to go.
Biggest update we've done yet.
Yeah.
Wow.
Those are fun though. Those are fun names.
They're fun. Okay, so anyway, we'll look to do some more deal room reviews. Anybody listening, feel free to go to CEO.com/CrashLabs and put in some company recommendations in there. If we're not going to get them, what I'm just going to do is go to the trending page on CEO and pick deals, and we'll just go through those ones. Whatever's trending.
We're seeing a lot too. There's a lot of deals that we're going through. We can go over. We'll have more to talk about.
Yeah, or if you're the CEO of a company, especially if you're doing a life financing.
Oh, so that's where I think
Come and see us.
I did part life financing.
Sit your ass in one of these chairs. Get your deck out, and let's whip your deck out, and we'll put it on the screen, and we'll go through it, and you can pitch the world your life financing.
Life financings.
Why? What's wrong with them?
I don't know. I just did $3 million of life financing, and my stock's down 30% since I did it. So.
No, it's because it sucks.
Didn't we just spend 2 minutes saying it's terrible? That's terrible.
That's not why, Matt. Anyway,
there's so many pros and cons. Bigger market, bigger attributed market when you do life financing. It was interesting doing it. I'd never done one before. It was interesting doing one as the company itself, because you're writing it up. It's kind of like a mini prospectus, right? Like you're adjusting the language in your report. You have to disclose way more. You're disclosing like years of financials too. So there's actually a lot of companies who are sketchy who are not doing life financings because of that.
Is it similar to like a short form prospectus in the amount of work that you have to do ahead of time?
No, I don't think it's that much still. I don't think it's there yet. Like it was a lot. Like there was a lot of, so it was a brokered life financing. So you have the broker due diligence checklist, but then there's extra things. There's like things that would not quite be in there that are in there. But we had a lot. We had a charity flow through portions, and then like that part you have to be attributable to strategic metals and blah blah blah. But the life portion of it was interesting because it was mostly financial data. It was mostly disclosure of financial data, which was new for me. And then I've heard some stories of people who want to raise life and then find that out, and they're like, nope.
It's probably the same people that are investing in
Like,
life.
forget
They're
it.
just not lying on
I don't
like
blame
the
them.
accredited form anymore, right? They're like,
You don't
"Oh,
need to be
no."
accredited.
I know, I'm just saying it's the same investors
Oh,
that
yeah.
are going into life. They probably prefer it because there's no hold on it
That's-
now, and
well, for sure.
and they
Well-
also can feel good that they're not lying on the.
Yeah.
They're not. They're not.
I
They're not
totally have $5 million
in
of
assets.
assets.
I'm like, who's asking me? I'm like, is your life worth $5 million? They're like, yes. I'm like, well,
You're accredited.
You're
then.
accredited. Get in there.
It's a hard asset.
Is your life worth $5 million? Then the answer is yes.
Don't read it. Go to Jay.
I'm kidding. I'm kidding. I didn't give anybody that advice.
We're just joking, guys.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, so as per usual, don't invest in anything that we say to invest in. Don't listen to us. We don't know what we're talking about. Please read our disclaimers. And good luck and Godspeed to all of you.